Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I just kind of wanted to go over our mission and vision a little bit. If you've started an application in the application portal and have written your essay, I'm sorry because the essay questions have changed and it has to do with the mission and the vision. So you're definitely going to want to read this information and then respond and redo your essay. Class requirements for the program, you have to have anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, general chemistry, pathophysiology, pharmacology, statistics. For experience, we want at least 1 year in the ICU, but 3 to 6 is kind of the sweet spot that's recommended. For your application, you'll need to have your CV, 3 shadow experiences with 3 different CRNAs, supervisor assessment form, critical skills checklist, your hard science GPA calculator, your CCRN, your ACLS, BLS PALS, and then we'll need unofficial transcripts for your application. If you're accepted into the program, then you will have to provide official transcripts to the graduate school. This is the slide everybody wants to know about, the money. I kind of have it broken down into in-state, non-state. That's how the college does it. There's not just a flat fee. So it's based on your residency. So you can just look at that. And that was basically all I wanted to share with you today. I just kind of wanted this to be an informal session where you could ask questions of students, ask me questions, get all your burning questions answered. So I will open the floor and go for it.
I guess I'll go. I have a question for anybody that's currently in the cohort. What are some of the things when you initially got into the program that you wish you would have better prepared yourself for prior to starting, whether it's like mentally or financially or like a habit that you maybe could have developed beforehand? What's something that you learned about yourself since starting?
That's a really good question. I think about that all the time because I have a lot of friends that are wanting to apply, so I try to give them advice. I had been out of school for like 3 years or so, and I don't think that there was anything I really could have done to prepare for that shock of starting again. But I think that having certain resources and understanding how to use them to review anatomy and physiology and all that would have been helpful. There were things I used in nursing school that I totally forgot about. And I'm happy to put a list together and share with you what I use, but I think getting familiar with those earlier on and reminding myself how to use them would have been, for me, helpful.
Um, okay, so something that would have been helpful for me is one of the biggest things is you have to know how to study efficiently because it's very different than like undergrad studying where an undergrad was a ski bum and ski instructor. So I studying was like third and here it can't be. And so I think like building the habit of like being really good with your time management because I don't think you realize how much time you waste until your time is super limited. Whether that be like how much time you spend doing mindless things that you maybe previously didn't notice, maybe just bringing more attention to that would be very helpful.
Um, and sorry, we're sharing a screen. I'm Kate, this is Bevy. Honestly, what I'm gonna say is like my last 3 months before I started school, I wasn't working. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I like played in the mountains as much as I could. I saw my friends. You're gonna have no time at all. Like I always thought school really came easily to me. Always. I never really had to study that much. And then I got here and I was like, this is different. So you can spend months and months preparing, studying, all those sorts of things, but like really you're already gonna kind of give up all of your time once you start school. So I would say like kind of spend time with people you love, do things you love, and have some fun because you're not gonna be able to as much, even though actually it's not that bad. So
Yeah, you do have time for some fun.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I was gonna say, it looks like you're having fun. You all have smiles on, so we'll take it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What do you think set you apart as an applicant when you guys were kind of interviewing and things like that?
For me, I think that I was a non-traditional student. I didn't go to nursing school right away after high school, and I have a ton of other things that I've done in my life, including I started like my own business and did a lot of teaching. So I think having leadership roles and clearly having like self-motivation as a self-starter was helpful for me. But there are so many different, I think being authentically yourself in whatever version that is, I think that's what helps you stand apart. Like just being confident in yourself, and don't try to say what you think everybody wants you to hear or wants you to say, because they just want you to be you.
Okay. Thank you.
I would agree with that a lot. I mean, I think all of us have had, like, we all in our cohort, there's 23 of us right now, and we all have really different experiences. And many of us, like, I was a charge nurse preceptor, I ran every device possible, but I think really what they care about at this school, which is kind of one of the reasons I really love this school, is they really just wanted to, if you get an interview, during that interview process, they look at you and they're like, who are you as a person? Like, and so when you think about applying to school, like, and when you get to the interview process, lots of schools are just going to try to grill you on patho, pharm, make you feel like an idiot. I've gone through those interview experiences. They sucked. This one was it's awful. And this one, they were just like, it's emotional intelligence, but it's also like, you don't have to look at those emotional intelligence questions just being like, okay, give me a work situation that this applied to. Like, it can be anything from your life, like anything that you're like, oh, I was a leader in like my, I do sports, I go to a church, whatever, like they care about the rest of your life too.
Yeah,
That's
I think
really good.
showing that you have like, you're not just like a one-dimensional, like became a nurse right away, worked your 1 year of ICU straight to CRNA school.
Still fine if you did that.
Yes. They want you to see, they want to see if you have like depth to you as a person. Like you're not only that, I guess.
Yeah.
Was my impression. I don't know, Cindy, what stood out?
Yeah.
I can't say.
I think that's something that I've heard a lot too, though, is just, especially for our cohort, is they picked, I mean, from our resumes, they knew what our grades were, what our experience was. So they were looking more for good people or people that would fit well together in a cohort. And that's something that I've heard from Dr. Shalinor and other instructors too, is just that we have a really good group of students, and we all get along really well and are helpful to each other, and it works well.
One of the things that we really try to do is not only do we want you to be a good CRNA, we want to put out good people. And that's one of the things that Dr. Shalinor is very adamant about. We have hired an emotional intelligence coach. He has done one-on-one sessions. He's done group sessions. He's, basically given homework for emotional intelligence. And we just want to make you the best person that you can be.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No,
Go ahead.
You sure? Okay. I work in the Albuquerque area. I work in the medical ICU. For those of you that are in the program, and since I've never worked in cardiac critical care, how much would that you think would be an impact for those of you that didn't have like any critical care experience or any of like the higher, it sounded like they prefer like trauma, cardiac. If anybody has any things that they could bring to the table to see if that would cause an impact for those of us that don't have that.
Well,
Go on.
Oh,
Sorry.
I was gonna say I did MICU for ICU for a while, and then when I was in COVID, I was like all MICU for ICU travel. Honestly, I also did cath lab and I got a little bit of CV experience there and then a mixed ICU. But I will say a lot of my learning came from MICU because you get really, really sick patients in MICU where you are playing like intense polypharmacy. And so I've also worked mixed ICU and CV. Yes, I feel like there's a different experience there, but I will say I think I wouldn't discount your MICU experience is what I'm saying.
And you definitely don't have to take hearts to be able to be in the program. I've never taken hearts. I was a charge nurse. I mean, the more you know, the better off you are. But you definitely don't have to have that experience to do okay. You're just going to be studying all day, every day.
Yeah, I don't think that your experience, I mean, a lot of you are probably like, oh, I'm like one of the most experienced nurses on my unit. Everyone comes to me for questions, whatever, like all that will go out the window once you're in school.
You all are the same.
Yeah, like none of us know anything anymore. I do want to address a couple of the questions in the chat because I'm a slow typer and I was trying and I'm just slow. So to Carlos's question, if you're a nurse practitioner, does that help? I think any experience is good experience. I will say that one of our classmates, well, we have a couple NPs in the program, and then Bevy went to some NP school and then ended up shifting focus to CRNA school. So, but for that, I don't know if it necessarily helps like your chances of getting in. I do think it might help with some of the meds, like some of the pharm. You might have some like background that might help you there. I do think that if you are an NP, you still need that ICU experience. So make sure to highlight that on your resume, your application, because if your most recent job is an NP, sometimes that ICU experience can get overlooked. And Cindy might be able to correct me here, but I do think you need recent ICU experience. Okay, she's shaking her head, yes.
Yes, you have to be in the ICU within 18 months of program closure or application closure. Being a nurse practitioner really does not help. In some cases, it can hinder because if you've gone, right from RN to nurse practitioner and you haven't had any critical care, you may not have your CCRN. That being said, you can be taken in the program being a nurse practitioner. You just have to be able to prove in your application that you have the skills so that we can prove that to our accreditation body.
Yeah, I think our friend who's in our cohort, who's an NP, she was doing CV ICU travel when she applied, and her I think she went through a little bit of a humbling experience with some of her NP background, and then ultimately I think it's helped her in the sense of like her confidence with patient interviews.
Oh yeah.
But as far as like she definitely rode the tide there for like thinking it would help more than it did, and then coming back down, and now she's coming back up a little bit with the patient interview. But yeah.
And what I can suggest is if you're an NP currently, and you feel like your ICU skills aren't as strong, take a PRN job in the ICU bedside.
Yeah.
As an RN.
What's the ICU's the best?
Yeah. I was gonna say I was cath lab when I applied, and so I was PRN in the ICU, and that was able to help with that. So you can come from different backgrounds.
Okay, I'm going to do a couple more questions here. Dawn, is ICU experience required, and does the university help? I don't know if the university will help. I don't know where you're located, or where you work now.
I'm in Albuquerque. Yeah, so I work in the VA.
You work in the VA. So what I would say is go to, I mean, this is, I think, unrelated to school, but I would say go to the ICUs there and ask to talk to one of the managers. I think getting a face connection with one of them can be really helpful in terms of like, hey, I wouldn't mention, hey, I want to work here so I can go to CRNA school. I would say, I'm interested in working in the ICU. Like, can you give me more information? Could I set up a tour, or like, could I set up a shadow shift? Could I, like get information like that? Another question, helping to take a graduate level patho or pharm course. If your BSN GPA is a 3.0, I'd say definitely beef up your GPA.
Yeah, you want at least, I think Challenor told me like you need at least a 3.5 to be competitive. Is that right, Cindy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if your BSN is not a 3.5 or above, what you can do is you can repeat some of those hard science requirements at a graduate level And then what we'll do is we'll take that GPA that you got from repeating those courses and add it to your BSN GPA to kind of beef that up a little bit. But they have to be graduate level courses because we have to prove to everything is about proving to our accreditation body why we accepted you as an applicant. And so we need that to prove that even though your BSN GPA may be low on the lower side, you can still handle graduate work.
Samantha's question, how long do you recommend working in the ICU if you're working in a level 1 trauma? I worked at a level 1 trauma in Seattle for, I think I was in the ICU for 6 years there. I would say at least 2 or 3 years. Like, I remember starting in the ICU at a year. I didn't feel necessarily like I was competent, but I really started to feel that like, wow, I'm like excelling in this, like probably year 3 or so. That's me though, so you might be different, but I appreciated my experience for sure.
Classy. I was gonna add to that. I think something that comes with that too, it's not necessarily like, yes, the experience of like getting exposure to a bunch of different patients is good, but like if I went as just 1 year out of nursing school straight into this, I think I would have been really like it would have been really challenging from like my confidence perspective, is what I'm trying to say. Because now that we're starting our shadowing clinical, I could see where having like being a little more soft can be a little hard.
Yeah. We are, I guess, steamrolling some questions here, so we're gonna let some other people talk. Okay.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Annette. I have a question. I have a question more about the like the coursework and how you guys feel about that. So usually with DNP programs, there's going to be a DNP project. And so I don't know if you guys have started to work on that, or is that something that's kind of being incorporated from the beginning of the program, where you guys are already starting to think about what you want to do for your projects? Is there support for that? And then also the didactic, like just the educational part of it. How is that being put across? Are you getting like PowerPoints that you have to read the book, and then take exams? What does that look like? What does the didactic coursework look like? Being that it is like a partially a remote program, but then you guys, I know you're going to the school as well.
I definitely think that there's a lot of support for the DNP project. I think it's kind of on the back burner for a lot of us. We have a class. We had a class first semester and this semester where they're having us start to think about it and come up with ideas and go through, I guess, like little assignments to get ourselves like working towards that. But there are things that everybody does last minute. It's not something we're all like paying attention to. We're all focusing on the big classes, physiology, pharmacology, pathophysiology, all of that feels more important at this point. But there is support for sure for working on the DNP project.
Do you feel like you have any ideas right now on what you might want to do, like just based on your experience as a nurse already, things that you've seen that you might want to do your project on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have some ideas. I think some of the ideas I had seem to get turned down because like one idea was to use regional blocks in the ICU to try to prevent post-ICU syndrome and different like pain disorders. But apparently CRNAs in other hospitals don't necessarily go to the ICU here in New Mexico. So that makes it kind of hard because I came from UNM, from the MICU, like Fernando was talking about. And all of the anesthesiologists, because they're all physician residents, they came to the ICU. So in my mind, I was like, oh, we would go to the ICU, but we don't. So that one got turned down. But then another one that we came up with because of some of the experiences of the cohort above us was trying to figure out a better policy for figuring out if parents should come with their kids into the OR during induction, specifically if they have like developmental delays. So that's something we're kind of working through. But again, it's like really on the back burner for, I think, a lot of us. It's not like the main focus, but ideas are definitely coming.
Okay. So that's nice.
Hello,
And
everybody.
and also just the educational part of it. What do you guys, how is that experience for you guys? Is it PowerPoints? Like what is it like?
It's a mix, I would say. Like we're in our second semester. I think that's kind of why our DNP projects are not our primary focus right now. First semester was a lot of PowerPoints. Basically every class will give you PowerPoints for their content. It's just a matter of whether or not you then also have an in-person class that kind of either emphasizes that, goes through some of that. I think that we've all spent a ton of time kind of going through PowerPoints, doing reading. They have an anesthesia program that they pay for. Don't go down this rabbit hole quite yet, but called Apex that we spent a lot of time working with. So yes, it's a lot of PowerPoints, some Zoom classes. It's such a mix. I will say that like I don't know if they call it a hybrid program, but I feel like there's a huge benefit to being here. And it doesn't feel that hybrid for me. I mean, we don't have to go into campus all the time, but it doesn't feel that hybrid.
Okay. Great. Thank you guys.
And one thing I'll say about the DNP program or projects as well, we start our intro to DNP class in the summer, first year. So that's when you'll really start thinking about your project. You'll do project as a group. They're not individual projects. So there'll be 3 or 4 of you on a project. And that kind of starts in the summer. So they're just getting ready to get into that in May.
And they are group projects, by the way. That was a question someone had, group projects.
That's great.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Jose. I have a question for the students. So I don't know, you can describe more in detail how's your regular week during the school. So for example, in my case, when I was in nursing school, it was like Monday and Tuesday, like face-to-face class, like 2-3 hours lecture. And then Wednesday, Thursday, it was like actual clinical rotations. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was like off days. So in your case, how's your regular week? What do you do in a regular week?
So we have class on Wednesdays right now from 9 to 12:30 in the morning and then 2 to 5 in the evening. That's our in-person day. We just started shadowing on Thursdays for clinical rotation. So we have 4 of those for the rest of the semester, and everything else is just online self-study. We do Zoom meetings a couple times a week. And then we have all of our PowerPoints and assignments online that we do on our own or study group.
I do study every day. So I don't have, I mean, I know in nursing school they give you those like quote unquote off days. No, not anymore.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a day that I haven't studied something. There's definitely days you have to take breaks, obviously, but I don't think that there's been a day I haven't looked at anything, unless it was been on like our break between semesters. I think I definitely didn't look at anything then, but.
Hey, good morning. I just want to piggyback off his question. But I'm Anne Marie, and thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this to help all of us out. But what do you guys, in your opinion, now that you've already started, I guess what is your, it's not really work life, but like what is your school life balance? And then earlier you did mention studying tips and studying habits. So yeah, if you can break down what you guys see as a good way to balance the rest of your personal life and still maintain studying
Yeah.
and everything a priority?
Well, I have the problem of I study a lot. I also like to live my life as with my hobbies and passions. So I did struggle with like making that meet. I'm still able to do it though. So there's some things that I had to let that I don't get to do quite as much, but I still get to like, it's really important for me. Like, I really like to exercise and run and mountain bike and stuff. I still have time to do that. I was able to get involved in like a couple local community things here in Las Cruces and pursue different hobbies that way. You just have to be diligent with your time. So my trade-off is I do have to get up. I get up pretty early because that's like, this is another kind of study habit is you figure out when your best brain time is. So like when your like hardest learning needs to happen, you need to use your best brain time. Mine happens to be first thing in the morning. And so doing something really productive then I can go do what I want to do. And then whether or not I'm doing that at night. But you do definitely like you do need to do stuff. You need to have time. We go on runs together.
I traveled probably too much the first semester. I was going, it seems all my friends decided to get married right when I started school, which is, I'm furious with them. But I had lots of things that I wanted to make priorities for myself. And basically those like weeks leading up to whatever trip I was going on, I was just grinding. You just have to plan.
Yeah. And so like for me, my husband still lives in Austin, right? I had to move out here. And so like we're doing a distance marriage essentially. And so like being able to visit him and maintain our relationship with that and like also feel healthy and happy here, it is doable. It requires you to be really efficient with your study habits. And like I said earlier, you don't realize how much time you spend doing mindless things until your time is not there. And so if you can just like, it's really not even that hard, but like, it's just being more aware of like time spent scrolling, doing nothing is still taking away mental energy. So when you do go to study, it may feel a little more cumbersome than had you just like been a little better with tightening in your habits.
And then can you also, since it sounds like both of you guys from out of state, and yes, West Coast, I went to nursing school in Oregon, in Portland, and worked in MICU there and everything. So it was wonderful. Did my CCRN with Nicole Kupchik. I'm sure you know who she is.
She's from my hospital.
Wait,
she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, but going from out of state to moving there, for school and potential future, can you speak on that? Like what would be helpful? How far in advance do you plan to, or would you say, I mean, I plan on moving there earlier anyways, but for other reasons, but any adjustment things that you think are very helpful, feel free to share.
You're going to start in August and it's so hot.
It is really hot.
I was like, I'm dying. It's so, yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer. I was so hot.
I would say I moved here 10 days before the program started. And that was a good amount of time. It was like, honestly, you could like, I guess it depends on how much you want to be, what you want to get involved. But it was really important when I moved here that I got stuff figured out with my dog and like got my like life things that are going to make me happier figured out before I started the program. And so, but I don't think you need like 10 days. I think like 5 days is fine. But you also do, if you're moving from out of state, you want to get your license, your car registered, because you need to get all of that taken care of so you can get in-state tuition the following year because you have to prove 12 months of residency. So however, and you want to do that before school starts. The other part is like, if you guys do get accepted, you'll be paired with like one of us as like your mentor and reaching out to them to find out like, especially if you're moving from out of state, like what's a good area to move, because that was really challenging for me. I room with another student who's also from out of state. And like, she came down and like looked at apartments when she was like doing a passing through trip. But like, that's some of that you could just like, reach out to one of us about information on where would be a good place to live, etc. Kind of stuff like that.
I will say, I don't know if Oregon applies, but I came from Washington. It's called the WICHE program. It's WICHE. It's the Graduate Reciprocity for In-State. So I get in-state tuition because I'm from Washington. I don't know if Oregon also applies, but make sure if you're coming from out of state, you look into that WICHE. I'll put it in the chat. Program to see if your state applies.
I'm not in Oregon anymore, but I will look into that for a different state. And then distance wise, like how far, since it sounds like a lot of stuff are virtual, and then of course, depending on where your clinical sites are and stuff, like how far away from campus would be okay to live? How far to how close?
You have to live in Las Cruces if you're moving from out of state. You can't say move to Albuquerque. So if you're coming in from out of state,
Okay.
you have to move to Las Cruces.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's been a couple questions on clinicals and SimLab that I wanted to touch on. And also about how we feel like we compare to front-loaded programs. That first, we're just starting to be in the hospitals shadowing. So I don't know how we compare to front-loaded programs, to be honest. Everything that is coming from our administrators and professors say that we're prepared, but I honestly have no idea. As far as SimLab and clinical sites go, there we have 3 clinical sites in Albuquerque. There's clinical sites in Las Cruces and El Paso, and we have one person who was still living in Santa Fe, but was living in Santa Fe before she applied, and so she was able to stay there. And I know that our administrators are working to try to get her a clinical site in Santa Fe. And so I know that there's like some flexibility and that our administrators are trying to get more and more clinical sites. So hopefully wherever you are, you don't have to travel too much for your home base. That being said, we will have to travel for other things. Like we're all going to have a rural rotation for like a month. And then we have an option to go to El Paso, even if we're not near El Paso. So there is traveling, but it's a little bit flexible and it's not in our first year really of school. And then there is a sim lab in Albuquerque that we're using at Presbyterian Hospital, but we also do our sim labs in Las Cruces when we're down there for our other classes.
And there was a question about how our program focuses on rural healthcare systems. So I'll just jump in here real quick and talk about that. Like Mara said, we do have a rural rotation that is scheduled. The class is scheduled in your spring of your 3rd year. However, we are going to start rotating our 2026 cohort to those rural rotations starting in the summer or the fall, just because a lot of places you can get your bread and butter index cases, and you can get those knocked out right away. The program does focus on rural health and disparities. In New Mexico, I don't know about many other states, but CRNAs can practice independently, and that's what we want to do, is create independent practitioners. So that is the big focus of our program. Unfortunately, we do have to use sites in El Paso, and Texas is a supervised state, but it does kind of give you an idea of the different models that you can work on, whether it's supervised, whether it's, collaborative, or, whether it's independent.
I have a question about that rotation. Is that the only like far away rotation that you anticipate there being like within the program, or do you think as you build out clinical sites, you'll have like other clinicals outside of the state?
We're going to try to keep people as close to home as possible. However, we are finding that we are struggling because we do have, we take 24 students, and we are struggling to place all of the students in the same, in a location close to home. So there may be times that you have to travel outside. I am currently working with financial aid to try to cover some of those travel expenses. We just have to figure out, financial aid has never done anything like this before. So we have to figure out how we can get it to increase your financial aid money, because we have to add it to cost of tuition. There's a whole big process that we have to go to, but we're currently working with financial aid to get all of that so that we can help recoup some of those costs for you.
Thank you. And sorry, one more question kind of related.
Sure.
Do you have any students that have children? I'm just thinking about that and like the challenges that can pose, especially with far away clinicals.
We do have a lot of people who have children. A lot of them are lucky that they have spouses that can kind of pick up the load. And unfortunately, when you're in this program, your spouses are single parents for the most part, because you are within the the program and studying all of the time. So having family as backup is the best.
Thank you.
I have another question, kind of like related to the same question that Eric was asking about the parents and all that. So, general speaking, the resources that the college, the institution offers you guys as a students, because we know sometimes we're dealing with some family drama, some we're sick, some issues with the school that we're not learning something correctly. So generally speaking, what resources they offer you guys as the students?
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm so slow. I think I can't say like a specific service or something like that, but kind of what we were talking about earlier, they really do care about us as people. I think that if you have something going on, just talk to them. They really do try to work with us. I don't know. I can say Cindy has like looked out for me 1,000 times. And they know your people, and they think they care about you. So just something comes up, just talk to them.
Yeah, basically that was my question. So like, they're open to talk to you, to listen to you, to your issues and all that. So
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to touch on application cycle. We have a meeting with the director of the School of Nursing. We are proposing changing the program to a spring start instead of a fall start. So we have that meeting next week. So I don't have an application cycle for you yet. If those changes are not approved and we still start in the fall, applications will open May to September of this year. If those changes are approved and we decide to go to spring start, application cycle will open from September 1st to February 1st of 26. And then you will be starting in January of 27. So keep an eye on website, social media. As soon as I know, that information will be posted. And I apologize, I don't have an answer for you right now.
Do you foresee any of the forms changing? Because I was planning on starting to do some shadowing work in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And due to the changes, if where there'll be any changes to the forms, and I know that the shadowing portion has to be done within the 1 year of application. So.
No, we're not going to be changing any of those forms. The only thing we changed was the essay.
And then once those forms are complete, they can give them to me, or should they email them somewhere? Since, again, we don't know exactly when the application portal will open up.
The CRNAs need to email them to me directly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
And I already have people completing their shadow experiences.
Awesome.
So please feel free to start them whenever you want.
Great. Thank you so much.
For Matthew's questions, what's FCLS?
Hello again. Well, there was a post on Instagram that was like Foundations of CRNA Learning Solutions or something like that was posted. And I looked into it, and it's basically a group of CRNAs that seem to be providing a course for ICU nurses as like super superficial kind of foundations of anesthesia stuff. So they go over, and so I was just kind of wanting to ask, since it was posted by the school, does that count as like an endorsement, or is that some kind of?
Oh, I didn't know it was posted by the school. Yeah, I can't say if it's recommended. I mean, maybe I should have checked that out. Yeah.
Okay.
Should we take
it? No, I was just curious about it because it was a post, and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe they want us to take it, or I don't know.
No, it was just information that Dr. Challenor had obtained at a conference that she went to and asked me to share on social media if it was something that you were interested in looking into. It's not in any way endorsed. It's not recommended, nothing. It's just additional information for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then Daniel, yes, I can discuss the reasoning behind changing from a spring to a fall start, or from a fall to a spring start, excuse me. The reasoning behind is a lot of your important classes, like your Principles 1 and your Intro to Clinical Residency, are happening in the summer when there's only 10 weeks versus 16. And we want to, if we switch that, everything will be pushed back a semester. So classes like health assessment, which the students are currently taking now at 16 weeks, you don't need 16 weeks for health assessment. So what we're having to do is we're having to take some of the stuff from Principles 1 that you would be learning and incorporate it into health assessment so that you get all of that information. So that is part of the reason for moving all of that.
I think one thing
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. Too is that like this, we've all had to have a bit of flexibility because it is a new program. So like they're figuring those things out, like which classes are better at 16 weeks versus like a summer semester. And so they're really good at asking for feedback and responding to feedback that we have, but definitely I think even the next coming couple cohorts will still be needing to be flexible while things get ironed out.
Yes, we definitely ask for some grace. We are figuring things out. We make changes every year. I feel changes that are for the good, that are better. We really look at student surveys at the end of courses. If you get into the program, we recommend that you fill those surveys out because we can't make changes if we don't know that there's issues. And we are very open to looking at those. And then someone asked about the essay question. I actually didn't share that on my PowerPoint, but I have the website pulled up and I can share that with you. Bigger so you can read it. Okay, there's the new essay right there. Can everybody see that?
Thank you.
Welcome. And Anne Marie, will you clarify your question? You were wanting the dates for the application cycle for the spring changes. Is that what you were wanting?
Yeah, can you repeat? So you meant when you were saying that potentially it would start in the spring, you guys meant instead of starting fall of 2026, it would start spring of 2026, correct?
No, it would start.
Or did you mean it would get
27.
spring of 26? Okay, and then when would the application window be if it did get pushed out to the spring of
It would be from
2027?
September to February.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So
And then more info to come regarding that once your meeting is done and the final decision's made. So about a month or so.
Yes, and we have that
thank
meeting
you.
next Monday, so I'm hoping that we'll have an answer pretty quickly, so
Great.
that I can let everybody know, because if not, then the applications will open in May. And that doesn't give you
Great.
much time to get stuff together.
Yeah, thank you.
So Erica, to answer your question about GPA, for lack of a better word, we have a rubric when we look at your applications and we basically grade your application. So we take what your BSN GPA is, and depending on what it is, we have a range and we give you so many points. And same thing with your hard science GPA. So if you have like a 3.8 to a 4.0, you get 20 points. If you have a 3.7 to a 3.8, you get so many other points. So we try to be as unbiased as possible when it comes to reviewing the application, so that we can't say that they're, we took special privileges with somebody or anything. We have everything out on a rubric.
Okay. And then for the science, is it like every science course ever taken, or is it like the prerequisite courses that you listed out? Like,
the prerequisite courses that are listed on the website. Those are the only classes we want. No labs, just those classes. And then if you have biochemistry and microbiology.
Okay, got it.
And if the courses you took were graduate courses, you need to specify that on there as well.
Okay. And then, sorry, one more question. For ICU experience, do you give more points to like a level 1 trauma center versus 2?
No.
Or are they considered this like, okay.
And we do the ICU experience the same way on the rubric based on years. We give you certain points. However, then when they look at the critical skills, like your critical skills checklist, I can't say how they grade that because I don't grade those. Those are graded by the director and the assistant director. But that's where they really look and see what kind of experience you have is by that checklist.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question regarding the GPA. I'm sorry, we're going back to that again. Do you average the BSN to your graduate level course in order to get, I mean, my undergrad wasn't as great as my graduate level course. And so do you take the highest or do you average?
No, we'll take the highest.
Thanks.
I have a question. My name's Veronica. I work in the PICU, and I'm just curious if you guys think that'll hinder my ability to succeed in CRNA school.
One of the people in my little, like we all have like little groups that we study with or do stuff with. So in Albuquerque, one of the girls worked in PICU and she's doing really well. She feels like we have a leg up having done adult ICU where she hasn't really. But then when we get to the peds stuff, she'll have a leg up because most of us probably haven't worked peds. So I think it just depends on who you are as a person. I don't think that it's necessarily going to hinder you just because you did that.
Cindy might be able to answer that. I know some of the schools I applied to, they required you had, I think, either trauma or medical or cardiac ICU experience, and they wouldn't accept pediatric. How does NMSU work, Cindy?
We don't accept neo, I think, neonate, but we do.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any additional questions?
Hello, my name is Paris. I do have a question. So I know in nursing school they did a thing where they would accept you on a conditional basis. So let's say I apply while I'm taking a stats class. Would you guys accept on a conditional basis that I pass the stats class if I hypothetically would get accepted?
No.
No?
Mm-mm. All requirements have to be completed by close of application cycle.
Okay. And then after the application cycle, let's say it stays in the fall after the application closes in September, when would we find out whether or not you get accepted or not?
We would hope to be able to tell you by right before the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. As far as chemistry required classes, general chemistry is just fine. As long as it's 3 credit hours, you're good to go with general chemistry. But you can use any other chemistry classes that you've taken. If you've taken organic chemistry, you can use that.
I have a question for Cindy, I believe. I have my FMP, and I was wondering if a gap analysis occurs if accepted to the program to see what credits could transfer.
We will only take transfers on DNP courses, and you can only transfer up to 12 credits. So if you do have your FNP, you would take the form and look at the syllabi from our class and the syllabi from the classes that you took, and we would determine whether or not those are transferable. And then you wouldn't have to take those DNP courses. But those are the only courses that we can transfer in.
I will say too, because I went through that. I had some previous coursework from grad school that I had to do this gap analysis thing with. It takes a really long time. So if you do get accepted and you want to get credit, like week 1 of being here, you need to do that so you can get, because like some of those DNP classes are going to come pretty early. if you want to get credit. And it just takes a really long time. So just be diligent. Not on Cindy's fault. She's on it. It's just a slow process.
Thanks, Bevy.
And who do you contact, or where do you go to do that?
There's a form online that you can fill out. It goes directly to the graduate school and then it filters into me. And then I push the process. Ultimately, it's up to the director of nursing whether or not those courses will be approved. Like Bevy said, it does take a while. I still am waiting on some that they haven't made a decision on yet. And then some of the classes that you cannot use for credit are classes that are going to affect your DNP project. So Bevy had a class that she wanted to transfer out of, and she could not because it was a main DNP course. So sorry, Bev.
Hi, I have a question for you. My name is Jeanette from El Paso, Texas, ICU. Kind of to touch back on the chemistry, I'm planning on retaking some of my science classes. And would you recommend, since you did mention about the chemistry, instead of taking the general chemistry, to take a biochem?
You can use your biochem as a chemistry requirement. It just has to be 3 credits.
I will say,
I don't know.
My background, I also went to nursing school kind of later in my life, and I was a biology major before that. I love biochemistry, and I think in terms of something that's actually going to help with content, I think biochemistry is way more helpful than general chemistry. If you do need to retake a chemistry course, I would say over and beyond, take a biochem.
Thank you.
You know, I was gonna say, I actually
No, go ahead.
Gen Chem 1 right before coming here, not to retake it for my GPA, but because I was planning on taking OChem and I had been so out of it. So I was gonna go the whole pathway.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, I do feel like taking that class right before we started did help me like figure out how to learn again, if that makes sense. So that was helpful. And then it was a little helpful with some of the stuff in phys, and then oh my God, what was that course? Dr. Gagel's class. That class. Our physics chem class. Oh yeah, chemistry. Oh yeah, CRNA chemistry. It was helpful with that as well.
Perfect. I do have another question, kind of touch base on how often and you guys see yourself in person. I know me going through nursing school, I was always on campus. Again, I'm from El Paso, and I'm of course willing to drive to on campus to study, but how often do you guys, or somebody who's maybe from El Paso in your cohort, do you see yourselves on campus?
So when I first moved here, I moved from Seattle. I moved actually closer to El Paso. And it kind of just worked out that the group of people I ended up studying with the most were all in Las Cruces. So I was driving back and forth a ton. However, most of the people I think who live in El Paso, that's like their choice, essentially. Like we do have a few people who live in El Paso that come up all the time. And some people don't. So it's really like what you decide to do. You obviously have to come for all our in-person requirements and stuff, but you don't always have to be on campus to be studying with people. You can find a study group in El Paso too that works for you.
I think like one of the guys in our cohort, he studies in El Paso at one of the public libraries that's down the street, because it is kind of like you realize that it is hard to study at home. And so that's where, and I think some people they meet up in various locations in El Paso.
Yeah.
And the way our offices are situated on campus, we have a suite. And so we have 2 conference rooms where people come and study all the time. And so we constantly have students in here every day studying. And you're more than welcome. We have a microwave you can use for lunch. We have a coffee pot. One of our faculty provides snacks a lot so that you have some brain food. So.
You mean one of our faculty, Cindy?
No, that's Dr. Jones that buys all that.
Something else I recommend while you guys still have jobs and have money and you like to be at home studying, is make sure that you have a good setup for wherever your office is going to be, standing desk. If you need like a some sort of indoor bike or a walking pad or anything that's going to help you to keep moving, like super helpful. I gained like 15 pounds, I feel like my first semester, and then I think I lost it again. But anyways, like you sit in front of the computer a lot. Body mechanics are important. So highly recommend.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
I had a question kind of building off of that. I know that the cohorts are kind of split up between El Paso and Las Cruces. Before you started the program, did you guys kind of have like a meet and greet so you can find people that are located near you so that you can form study groups? Or was it just you guys kind of clicked on your first day of class and that's how you guys formed your groups?
I think that for Albuquerque, I think the first time there was an email or something sent around, a couple of us already knew each other, and then one of them figured out how to get a hold of everybody, and we organized our own meetup before even the orientation, and so that was helpful. So I'm sure you can set something up like that also. But yeah, mostly when you meet in person for an orientation.
Okay, thank you.
Our incoming cohort for this fall has reached out to me because I can't give you anybody else's names and information. That's a FERPA violation. But I have had people, reach out to me and say, hey, I've started a Discord group. Can you let everybody know? And then if they choose to, join the Discord for meet and greet, for, just conversing over, online, that's possible too.
Thank you.
Okay, it's almost 11 o'clock. Any more questions before we go?
I have one question. My name is Shaylee. So if we are shadowing right now, I know applications aren't open and you already kind of touched on it. They can send you like that form already, even if the application gets pushed back until like later fall, winter.
Yes. Yep. They can send it to me anytime. I keep all that stuff on record for you because I add that to your application once it's submitted. So yeah, they can send them anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And don't worry, Cindy's the most organized person in the entire world. So
no pressure.
I mean, it's just true.
Maybe overkill, but that supervisor form also emailed to you, correct?
Correct.
Great.
The only thing that doesn't have to be emailed is the critical skills checklist. But most supervisors usually email that to me just because they're emailing me your supervisor's assessment form. And if they do, when you do your application, it won't let you submit unless you put in something in the place for the the critical skills checklist. And you can just upload something that says that they already sent it to me.
Okay.
You just have to have something in that spot.
Okay.
And Samantha, for program requirements, yes, it's okay to apply with a minimum of 1 year experience. We've taken people with just a minimum of 1 year experience. So it's always worth it to apply.
Hi, my name is Tori. As far as recommendation letters, would you prefer those sent directly to you from the person who has written them?
We don't require recommendation letters. They can definitely send it to me if they want, or you can upload it with your application. But we use your shadow forms as your recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I know someone briefly,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Someone briefly mentioned about the finance aspect of it and that there aren't too many scholarships for grad school. Do you guys feel like with what you've saved up before you started the program and with the student loans that are provided, it was manageable, or it is manageable?
I think you can get as many loans as you want to kind of alleviate some stress if you don't have like a really robust savings or something like that. Bevy, 2025 scholarship winner over here. Cindy will send out all scholarships that we're kind of eligible for. So actually, again, so organized, and apply for all of those. But you can take loans out, and the interest rates are really high right now. but
goes
so is the salary of a CRNA.
I think everybody's also just in a different boat. I know some people have help from their spouses who are working or don't have to pay because of military experience or have tenants or other passive income. And then some people don't have anything and are just living on loans. So, I mean, I think any way that you can manage to buffer what you need, what you make or have to spend is helpful. But at the end of the day, like Kate said, you can take out loans, you could take out private loans, and you just try to live minimally for a period of time until we're CRNAs.
Yeah, my roommate is doing the full like loan route from she's out of state, and then it's like she had some savings, but like she's living off of the federal loans that are provided for her specific to grad school, and she's able to make it work, and she's able to like live her life a little bit. I mean, granted, you can't like be crazy, but you're not just
anyway.
Yeah, but you're not like she's not like sequestered to eating sad ramen every night either. So.
And you have to have health insurance, and if you're in New Mexico and you're not married and have supplemental income, Medicaid is super helpful. They pay for everything and it's free. So don't forget about that as a resource, and we'll hopefully save you money.
Except for glasses. So go to the eye doctor while you still have insurance.
I had one more question about I guess work-life balance. I know some schools it's like just a continuous in between, like there's no like week off in between semesters. Is that how this program is, or do you offer like a small break in between?
There's a week off between fall and spring. And then, no, sorry, 2 weeks off between fall and spring, a week between spring and summer, and a week between summer and fall.
Thank you.
You get 5 weeks off total.
And what they have a week of self-study, and I mentioned it earlier, there's a program called Apex Anesthesia, and it's for board review essentially. And this week of self-study, we're doing these Apex exams, but if you're on it in the beginning of the semester or like just throughout the semester, you can take those exams kind of throughout. So then you get an extra week.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, don't tell Cindy I said that.
But shush.
All right, if there isn't anything else, then we'll go ahead and we'll close out our meeting. Thank you for coming. I hope this was helpful. We'll probably do this again in another couple months. So if you have any other questions, you can hold them till then. You can always call, you can email. I'm very responsive to email, so please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks so much for your time, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, you guys, for helping me. I appreciate it.